Welcome everyone to another episode of The Pulse, your gaming industry news, updates, and new game releases delivered every other week. This week, we've got a few game updates. 2 studios will be ending support of their games, and GOG has some important news that you should know, especially if you've been playing games that have recently been delisted. After the game state, we'll immediately jump into the shuffle and deal. This week, we'll be covering some layoffs, but also huge acquisition news, like Tencent taking a majority stake in Kuro Games, the studio behind Withering Waves. For our content creators out there, Riot Games just updated their terms of service on conduct and behavior. So if you're part of, or want to be a part of, their content creator community, make sure that you tune into that. We'll wrap up with some huge news that'll rock one of the biggest markets in the world. Nintendo eShop and online services will be pulled from the Chinese market. We'll end the pulse with the new game release calendars. If you find any of the stories interesting or want to discuss further, make sure to drop a comment. Also, we have some buyer guides up on our Virtunis page, but we'll save that for later. So with that being said, let's get right on into it. GOG has expanded its preservation program to include games that have been delisted by their developers. They'll start this expansion by starting with Warcraft 1 and Warcraft 2. GOG has explained in a blog post that their commitment to preserving classic titles ensures that they remain accessible to all players. Now, this type of preservation is tricky. This isn't the type of preservation that allows you to purchase the game and use it forever. It's actually geared to the players who have bought the game prior to Blizzard's request to GOG. GOG is committed to making sure that you continue to have access to these games and ensure that they will be fully compatible. As the industry is slowly moving to destroying games of the past, initiatives like this one is a huge win for the players. Square Enix has announced that their live service game Foamstars will be ending support sometime in January. Following mediocre player counts and lack of interest from the community, we think that the timing will fall sometime after the 17th, which is the end date of the final season. Now, this isn't a full shutdown of the game. It's an end of support, which means the game will still be available after the date. There just won't be any updates going to the game forward. This is actually a common trend that's seen in a lot of live service games. It's just unfortunately games that just don't make the cut. Rivals, however, seems to be doing well, but that could be short-lived, which I don't anticipate anytime soon. Concord, if you don't know, was the biggest profile game to hit the market, and it was shut down only 2 weeks after release. The COVID-era surge in live service games seems to have hit the ceiling, and developers might need to plant new seeds, because this field looks like it's been harvested dry. In a twist of events, Ubisoft has confirmed that XDefiant will shut down on June 3rd, 2025, after a brief run of 1 year. New player registrations have been cut off as of December 3rd, 2024. It's a surprising twist, especially since executive producer Mark Rubin had firmly denied rumors back in September, insisting that the game was absolutely not dying. Turns out, it was. Despite a promising launch in May 2024, positive reviews and decent initial numbers just couldn't keep players hooked or bring in enough revenue. Ubisoft decided to pull the plug, but before servers go offline, players will get one last chance with Season 3 content, which is still set to drop soon. But behind the half of the XDefiant crew reassigned to other projects, Mark Rubin didn't sugarcoat things in his farewell statement. He called the shutdown a sensible decision while expressing pride in his team's efforts, even though the results didn't pan out. People Can Fly announced they're laying off over 120 employees as part of a major restructuring. The CEO, Sebastian, explained that external market pressures forced their hand. Apparently, the situation was worse than they expected. They're suspending Project Victoria completely and scaling down the team for Project Bifrost. Not only that, but they're also reorganizing some of their support teams to adapt to these changes. Moving forward, they'll focus on just one independent game instead of juggling multiple projects at once. To keep things steady financially, they're planning to boost their work-for-hire engagements. Sebastian did address the team, He expressed gratitude and acknowledged the challenges remaining employees will face after losing their coworkers and friends. Sebastian emphasized their commitment to creativity and excellence despite the hurdles. They're adapting to the current market conditions and doubling down on their dedication to making great games. It's a tough time, but they're determined to push through. Sweet Bandits Studios has announced they're closing their doors after facing immense challenges with their multiplayer stealth shooter, Deceive Incorporated. The Quebec-based indie team shared the heartbreaking news in a forum post, saying they had reached a breaking point. They explained, "There is no easy way to say this. The Sweet Bandits team is no more. After a long and difficult road of trying to get Deceive Incorporated to a state where it could thrive, we have reached a breaking point for the studio. Unable to continue this adventure with you, despite their struggles, the team expressed pride in their game and the joy it brought players worldwide." Released in 2023 of March, Deceive Incorporated earned strong reviews with a very positive rating on Steam and nearly 4,500 user reviews. It peaked at 8,632 players in May 2023. But recently, numbers dropped below 200. The game's performance on PlayStation and Xbox remained unclear. This sharp decline in players made it unsustainable for Sweet Bandits to continue operations. The 18-member team is working with publisher Tripwire Interactive to find ways to keep Deceive Incorporated running. For now, servers remain active while both sides explore options of the game's future. Deck9 Games has announced another round of layoffs in 2024, marking the second workforce reduction this year. CEO Mark Lyons cited "challenging times" as the reason behind the decision, reflecting ongoing struggles with the studio and the gaming industry at large. This is not the first sign of trouble for Deck9. In February 2024, the studio reduced its staff by 20%, following an earlier round of layoffs in May 2023. Which affected 30 employees without much explanation. The latest cuts come on the heels of their most recent release, Life is Strange Double Exposure, which launched on October 29, 2024, the modest reception but seemingly insufficient commercial success. These layoffs signal ongoing uncertainty for the company as it navigates a difficult landscape, raising questions about the studio's future and its ability to rebound from these setbacks in an increasingly competitive gaming industry. Next up, we've got some NetEase drama unfolding across the industry. First, we got reports from Game Industry Biz that NetEase laid off an unknown amount of people as a direct result of their mobile game Hyperfront not meeting expectations. On December 3rd, an update was sent out with an official statement stating that staff was not laid off, but instead transferred to other departments. Now, this follows with last month's news with some key executives and employees being arrested for money laundering. But wait, that's not all. Worlds Untold, the studio led by Mass Effect writer Mac Walters and nestled right under NetEase Games, has put its operations on hold. This comes as the studio is currently looking for a new partner to help realize its vision. Worlds Untold was developing a near-future action-adventure game, with famed writer Mac Walters leading the studio. We were supposed to be treated with deep storytelling and a true sense of adventure. Now, as the studio is on pause, there hasn't been much talk about the studio if it will be shutting down. The current employees are currently seeking new opportunities with the support of Worlds Untold. We're really hoping that this ends on a high note. Now, it's not all doom and gloom in the industry. Reforged Studios has picked up South African developer Yellow Lab Games. Information about the acquisition haven't been shared yet, but Yellow Labs is set to continue their work on their metal-inspired Metavoidal roguelite. The game was released on itch.io not too long ago and is set to be released on Steam sometime during the first quarter of 2025. Motorsport Games has announced it will be sunsetting its NASCAR video games on December 31st. Once the sunsetting has begun, all NASCAR titles will be delisted from storefronts, but the games will still be playable. This comes after Motorsport agreed to transfer their IP over to iRacing back in October 2023. This marks a new era for motorsports, as they've been a key player in delivering NASCAR games for a while. But don't worry, it looks like there will be a new NASCAR game that will be coming out. and it will be developed by 704 Studios, which is a motorsport subsidiary. Of course, however, iRacing will be overseeing that project. Tencent Games has officially become the majority shareholder of Kuro Games, with a 51.4% ownership of the studio. Despite the change, Kuro Games has stated that their strategy of being an independent operation has not changed. Kuro Games may sound familiar if you've been following the Zenless Zone Zero, Genshin Impact, and Hankai Sphere. Kuro is behind Withering Waves, which launched back in May of this year. Alright, now this one's going to be for our content creators, so make sure you listen up. This is the big news coming out of Riot. Alright, let's crack this egg open, you guys. Riot Games is tired of your crap. Nah, I'm just kidding. Riot has updated their terms of service to include off-platform conduct related to its franchises. Basically, what it means is that content creators who are doing offensive stuff in their live streams, regardless of platform, and it includes any of their IPs like League or Val, you might face some in-game penalties. Let me use an example for you to better explain. If you use a hateful slur during a stream, even if it's not in game chat or voice, you could face getting banned and having your partner program privileges revoked. Now, this doesn't end with just that. If you're on stream and promoting account boosting services or promotions of selling accounts, you'll be faced with some penalties. Riot emphasized that depending on severity of your actions, you will be permanently banned across all of their games. Now, this should be a no-brainer for most, but as a company, Riot really wants to make sure the community of content creators adhere to the rules, but also align with the values of the company. You are, after all, representing them, are you not? Honestly, we're not really surprised, as the industry is now closely examining content creators and whether these partnerships are beneficial for both sides. We are sure to hear more from other studios as well.
Hey, just real quick, this year we've made changes to our buyer's guides and moved them to a central place. If you're looking for some gaming gear or tech for yourself or a loved one, we've got you covered. From keyboards, mics, and headsets, we've got it. We're also updating our list frequently with the most up-to-date prices. Head on over to virtunis.com, that's virtunist.com, and click on buyer's guides. Back to you, Brad.
In a crazy turn of events, Nintendo has announced that its online store and services for the Nintendo Switch in China will be phased out starting March 31st, 2026, when digital game sales on the eShop will end. By May 15th of 2026, all network-related services will shut down, leaving Chinese Switch owners without access to online features or digital content. To ease the impact, Nintendo is offering up to free 4 games to Chinese players, redeemable between November 27th, 2024 and March 31st, 2026. The choices will include popular titles like Super Mario Odyssey, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, and Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee. The reasons for this decision remain unclear, especially given the Switch's relatively recent 2019 launch in China through Tencent. This move ends a challenging chapter for Nintendo in a tightly regulated market and raises questions about the complexities in sustaining global gaming operations.
Next up, new game releases.
And that's going to do it for this week's Pulse. Be sure to drop a comment below, and if you found this video interesting, be sure to send over a like. As a reminder, we will not be releasing a Pulse for Christmas week. Our next Pulse episode will be on January 11th, 2025. We, the team at Virtunis, want to wish everyone a happy holidays and a very happy new year. I'm your host, Brad, and I'll see you guys next year.